Management of Aurionpro Solutions onto the show. We have Mr. Ashish Rai, Group CEO, to talk to us about the most recent order win and most importantly, because the stock is up 7.5% in trade on the back of that. First off, good afternoon, Mr. Rai. Good having you here. Want to first understand from you quantum of the win and how quickly does it start impacting your top line?
Hi, so good afternoon. First of all, thanks for having me. Look, I think so for competitive reasons, we don't declare deal values. I think so we typically don't declare wins unless it's at least 40 crores or something. So this one is well north of it. I think the way to look at it is we entered the market in Saudi Arabia a couple of quarters back. In the last 2 months, this is the second large win that we've announced in Saudi Arabia. There is a significant demand when it comes to transformation in the transaction banking space, and we've sort of more or less established ourselves as one of the top choices for banks looking for partners to bring in the next generation solutions in that space, right? So I think it has to be looked in that context. I mean, there's a continuum of wins in the market. It's a very important market for us. In terms of top line impact, I think it's a significant win. We start off, the project works usually immediately, so probably you'll start seeing some of the impact in Q4 itself, and it would be a material impact over the next, I would say, 12, 18 months.
Right. And okay, so let me put this differently. You've guided for a 30% growth in FY25. One, how do you look at that number now? Do you expect that number to have possibly gone up in some form or shape? Is it likely that you'll up your guidance, you'll close higher? Second is, what's the growth outlook for FY26 and 27, given this order win as well as others that are in the pipeline?
Okay, so the way I would look at it is this, Harsh. We've guided to a growth number north of 30%. We will deliver a growth number north of 30%. I think we'll fall somewhere between 30 and 35, maybe closer to 35. We're not going to start revising our guidance numbers on the basis of a win. I think we've just in the transaction banking space alone, I think in the last 12 months, we probably announced 5 or 6 new logos. So we are very competitive in the space. We are winning. It doesn't materially change the guidance number, probably puts a little bit of an upward bias, but we feel good about delivering north of 30%. The way to look at the longer term numbers you pointed out to 26, 27, I would say we look around 2 different vectors. One is now we've been delivering 34, 35% sort of growth for the last 4 odd years. We feel good about continuing to grow strongly around similar lines in the sort of near to mid term. The second way to look at it is we have a stated ambition to be, for our Vision 2030, a top 3 global player in each of our chosen spaces, which obviously means we to meet those ambitions, we need to continue to grow strongly for a fairly long period of time, right? So we feel good about the demand runway. We feel we've established ourselves as one of the most competitive solutions in the space. In most of the spaces we've been, our goal is to build absolutely top tier IP, build out sales channel more and more globally. We expanded into Middle East, we expand to Southeast Asia. Now the goal is to expand into Europe. We expand into US also, and that's growing quite nicely, right? So establish a channel that can take us globally, establish partnerships which can take us globally, and continue to sort of grow strongly for hopefully a long period of time.
Great. If you can also give us perspective, Mr. Rai, how long generally when you win an order, what's the kind of tenure on some of these orders? You're suggesting an order book of roughly 1150 crore at the end of Q2. I don't want to probe you on what you're sitting on right now. We'll await that at the end of Q3. But in that context, how important is and how much of that sits in your orders section and how much of that gets translated to revenue? How does this work?
Yeah, so look, typically in a software, enterprise software space, we normally sell out 5-year term licenses. Sometimes it may be a little bit more or less, but by and large, it's 5-year licenses. But typically, banks don't buy for a duration of 5 years. Most of the banks who bought from us have stayed partners to us, some of the largest banks in Asia over 15, 20-year periods, right? Because these are significant investments in technology. Once you make the investments, you don't really want to change them unless there is a real reason to. So typically, most of our relationships run, I would say, between 15 and 20 years. What is the revenue impact when we bring in a new customer? I would say the first 12, 18 months while we are taking the customer live and bringing the licenses in, I suppose the impact is a little bit higher. And then relationships move into a steady state phase where you still have maintenance streams coming in and upgrade streams coming in, etc. Right? So typically, I would say if we sign an order, let's say 50 to 60% comes in the first 18 to 24 months, and then it goes into a steady state period, and normally will stay with the customer 15, 20 years.
Got it. And therefore, you're currently at trailing 12 months top line of roughly 1,000 crore. You'll go to maybe in the next 2.5 odd years, you'll be at 2,000 crore plus. Is that the correct way to look at it? And margins at steady state would be around 20 to 22%. Would that be fair in terms of assessment?
Yeah, probably. So that's a good assessment actually, Harsh, right? So we normally would stick to between 20 and 22% on the margin. We believe that is the right level of EBITDA margins to drive in the business. If we keep growing the way we are growing, I think your numbers are correct. So this year we are guiding to a number between 1,150 and 1,200. We feel good about getting there. If you keep growing at, let's say, 30%, for the next 5-6 years, I think you'll probably be 4 or 5 times the size, right? Like we have been in the last 4 or 5 years, right? So I think, broadly, if we continue the trajectory, it would be around there. We don't give forward guidance that far out. We normally plan for the next year and do come back to the street with a very firm band in which we'll operate. The pace at which we are growing, I think it's important to understand, it's very hard to calibrate down to a fine percentage exactly what it is, because you're building out a lot of new products, you're expanding into a lot of new geographies. So that's why we like giving a band instead of a wider band instead of a firm number, typically a 5% band on revenue, which is between 30 and 35. I think we generally feel good about operating there. And 20 and 22 is sort of the right band on the EBITDA side.
Right. And Ashish, would it be fair to say that your entire revenue or close to your entire revenue of 1,000 odd crore would largely be on an annual recurring revenue kind of basis? From what we've just spoken, you said 60% of it translates in 12 to 24 months, and thereafter pretty much everything is annual recurring, because that'll keep coming in, right? Your clients are 15, 20-year clients. That's the kind of tenure you look at. Is that the right way to look at it?
I think it's sort of, I would nuance that a little bit. I think the way this works is a lot of the committed revenue under contract, you're right, comes from the recurring or near recurring streams, but then you are growing the business at 30, 35%. A lot of the new growth comes in from the newer streams that you are adding, right? So I don't think it would be a fair characterization to say all of the 1,000 crores comes from recurring. I would say something between 60 and 65 ends up being recurring or near recurring streams, like ongoing services and stuff like that. And I think the rest of it you do need to sell and deliver in the year that you're talking about, and that's where the sort of a lot of the growth comes from.
Fair point. Right, Mr. Rai, thank you so much for joining us, and many congratulations on this new order win. Of course, stock on a tear on the back of that.
Thank you.